Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with the midweek update in the world of cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn more about this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now, and take advantage whenever you feel ready in your own time if you wish to do so. We're going to start with this recap. While we've been through hell for the last 2.5 years, especially if you've been paying attention since the start of 2021, the good news is that there are quite a few cannabis catalysts popping up and that could be on the horizon. And so wanted to recap this good summary from H.L. Mencken. So CGC, Canopy Growth finalizing its U.S. entry plan, which we will get to later in this episode. TerraSend finalizing its TSX path. Sundial into the Russell 3000. Okay, good luck, Sundial. Safe headlines looming. Garland memo, and then HHS memo rescheduling or recommendation, whatever we are waiting on from Secretary Bachar and the HHS. So anyone selling weed names, I think you also are playing with fire, but at the same time, it's been wise to stay out of this industry up until now. It's obviously very high risk betting on any sort of change in legislation, but of course the reward is going to be high when we come to it. But wanted to share this first to start off. Josh Felker, thank you for this timely tweet. Feels like now is the time we should be hounding Schumer and other offices. And so his number is here. If you are in the States, please consider calling, or you can write a short message here. And while he certainly is not wrong making the statement here, I don't know if that's the best thing we should lead with. Consider just saying we need to make America safer and get the cash off the streets. Plus the banks would benefit from the liquidity, and it would help end the discrimination towards the industry. And it's the next best step that this industry needs, especially the social equity entrepreneurs that Schumer promised he would help. And so the more we hear him comment on adding social justice provisions, he's doing the same thing that Booker did 2 years ago, and he said, I'll lay myself down for safe no matter what. It's the same fucking theater. So as annoying as this is, because we've seen this many times, Schmuck's comments seem to be enough to appease his larger voter base, especially all the social justice warriors that don't know anything about these bills or the details within them. And so we know the bill needs to be as is in order to pass. It has the votes. Sadly, if Schmuck tries to add anything, it ruins the chances, further screwing over the entire industry that essentially helped get him elected. And so thank you, Don, for showing up again Tuesday morning, ready to go, and with this message.
Murphy, Tuesday morning, back on the Hill, headed to the House Financial Services Committee to help pave the way for a soft landing for the Safe Banking Act, should it get out of the Senate. Is the Safe Banking Act in its current form perfect? Only in this respect. The House Democrats, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, and Senate Republicans have agreed to the current form. Any effort to change it, to make it better, is less likely to make it passable. Timing is not our friend, and the longer we take delaying and debating this, the less likely it is to pass. So could it be better? Sure. But I'd rather
Please.
the law in its current form than dead in better form. That's my MO. It's always been the case, and I hope you all agree. We pass safe banking as it is today, and we live to fight another day and improve it from there. So have a great day.
Obviously better to pass safe as is and then continue to work for more incremental reform as opposed to try and make it better, get nothing, and be stuck to where we are. Obviously seems like politicians want it to go that way, and I mean, we know they do. We can see the incentives in the form of lobbying dollars on opensecrets.org, hence the results we've gotten thus far. However, is the banking lobby and the need for cash and liquidity potentially going to outweigh the forces that have been keeping cannabis at bay? And so wanted to flip the script a little bit and start with some studies as opposed to MSO news and state sales news as I typically do, just to highlight how the science has been really hidden, and everything, especially cannabis related, that's really been pushed out, the propaganda over the last few decades is all based on political science. And so Dale's report highlighting, ever wonder why lung cancer isn't prevalent among the millions of cannabis smokers worldwide who still consume it the old-fashioned way? Although findings are preliminary, we may have our answers. THC negates the harm caused by combustion inhalation. What do you know? Counterintuitive, fascinating, reason to deschedule so we can study more. And so this is a snippet from this article. Cannabis compound may fight lung cancer, and obviously speaks for itself here if you want to pause to read. Now what's interesting is that this actually is an older article from ABC News. We've been seeing it make the rounds on Twitter recently, and everyone's been sharing it. But from my understanding, I saw Todd Harrison posted that it's from 2008, and I couldn't confirm that, but if you scroll down and look down here, we can see that it seems as if this study is at least from 2007. So we've known this for 16 years, right? Yeah, nothing changes. That's why it's so infuriating. Cannabis, miracle medicine it is, but gets completely ignored. Plus, this was found by Harvard University researchers. And while Harvard might not be what it used to be, in 2007, from my understanding, Harvard was still somewhat reputable. And so, something worth considering. And then with that, we got this one from May 22nd. Smoking cannabis doesn't carry same risk as tobacco, UCLA study finds. And while we've known this for a long time, a new study, the impact of cannabis smoking on chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases in a cohort of middle-aged and older persons. The research compared groups of people who currently used to or have never smoked cannabis as part of longitudinal research study, and many of the subjects were studied for more than 4 years. Neither former nor current cannabis smoking of any lifetime amount was associated with evidence of chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, progression, or its development. The study said, because it's different from tobacco. Fascinating, right? But we love to see it, more data to prove all this. And what's funny, though, is that you think that this is new, right? Well, at the same time, this is from 2006, Science News. Study finds no link between cannabis use and lung cancer. And so I'm not sure if you've heard of this man, but Dr. Donald Kashkin was apparently the I think the most well-known or reputable lung professional. And there was a quote from him in 1996 saying that, cannabis has never once been found to be the cause of lung cancer. And so it's just these results have been known for a long time. Again, 2006, 17 years ago, we could have initiated, and taken the right steps to deschedule and research this medicine properly, versus the status quo failed war on drugs. And I say failed because over time it's been exposed more or less as a war on people, as it hurts a lot more than it helps. But continuing to just focus on the science as opposed to the cult political science that many politicians sadly succumb to. Thank you, Dale's report, for sharing his cannabis spray treatment. Jazz Pharma is available in 25 countries, but not the US. Isn't that a fascinating thing to ponder why? Pretty sure this points to significant medicinal properties and value, yet seems to be the US that wants to ignore that. And so full story, multiplesclerosis-newstoday.com. You'd think this would make headlines as if public health and safety was something governments cared about and took seriously, but as of May 23rd, 2023, you can read it and weep. Of course, better just have more access and choice to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative if possible. With that, another example, my daughter had 30 seizures a day. Medicinal cannabis helped turn her life around. And this is a story out of the UK where I do believe it's harder to get certain cannabis medications, but we know that epilepsy, much like MS, are two conditions that have been tested in a number of studies, and CBD has been proven to be a very beneficial treatment for them. And so it is a crime not to allow families to access it. Imagine, they told us to take Georgia home to die as there was nothing else they could do for her. It was horrendous and shook me completely. And thank you for pointing out, Josh Felker. If Kevin Sabbat had his way, this kid would be dead. Anti-human scum. And so for all the propagandists out there trying to deny access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative, fuck you. And so, onto this one from Journal of Psychiatry. As of March 28th, 2023, effects of cannabis legalization on the use of cannabis and other substances. And so you can pause to read the whole thing, but get this. Recent findings, most studies found no significant association between recreational cannabis legalization and changes in cannabis use among youth in European countries, Uruguay, US, and Canada. So many sample areas, most studies. So most you would say is more than a majority of 50, right? Then, however, some studies have reported increases in cannabis use among youth and adults in the US and Canada, although these increases seem to predate rec legalization. So it seems like with more people and more access, the numbers of use was going to go up anyways. But then additionally, there's been a marked increase in unintentional pediatric ingestion of cannabis edibles post-legalization. Probably the same amount of alcohol ingestion from youth as well. And so again, this is on the parents. Be better parents. That's it. It's on you. And an association between rec cannabis legalization and increased alcohol, vaping, and e-cigarette use among adolescents and young adults. Again, this is a factor of the gray market and not a factor of legalization. No doubt these numbers are higher where there is no legal cannabis market at all whatsoever, as data has shown that this actually goes down where cannabis is legalized. And then get this though. Summary. Overall, the effects of cannabis legalization on cannabis appear to be mixed. Really? I think most versus some is a little bit more than mix. It's like, that's like 75% to 25% or 70% to 30%. You know what I mean though? It's just further monitoring and evaluation research is needed to provide longer term evidence so we can get more funding from Big Pharma, so we can keep doing the same shit over and over again, but not actually descheduling. It's time to take action. And so last one on studies from Forbes, cannabis and migraines. Here's what the research tells us. Not going to spend too much time on this, but just wanted to share it if you're interested to find out how cannabis helps with migraines. Of course, we've been using cannabis for thousands of years, most likely human beings. So you can pause to read, otherwise you can grab the full link below. But with that, in a timely one we didn't expect from Marijuana Moment, the DEA finally is being sued by a former agent who was wrongfully terminated over CBD use. Go this guy. And so, the officer is taking the agency to federal court after being fired for testing positive for THC that he attributes to legal hemp-derived CBD oil he took for pain relief. And so you can pause to read some more of the details here, but Anthony Armour, terminated in 2019 following a random drug screening, and apparently he exceeded expectations and was a great agent, of course, sparking some controversy. And so the lawsuit is now before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, where Armour is seeking a reversal of the charge and reinstatement in the DEA. And so you can pause to read for a little bit more information down here. Just wanted to read what I thought was important or worth highlighting, but it was only after hemp and its derivatives like CBD were federally legalized that Armour, like countless other Americans, tried the non-intoxicating cannabinoid. And so he legally took a substance that was legal where he was. Should not be fired, didn't break any laws. But I'm glad that this is sort of in the spotlight, because maybe this could lead to some sort of ruling that deems the current status quo unconstitutional, as it's been ruled in other countries like Mexico, and clearly it is the case, and hence why hopefully we get some action sooner than later. But on to company news, LPs and MSOs. Canopy Growth files revised proxy statement, modifies Canopy USA structure to comply with NASDAQ listing requirements. And so what does this mean? Well, I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments, and please do correct me if I am. But from my understanding, it means Canopy has filed a revised proxy statement with the SEC. So essentially they've written back to them and included updates related to its strategy to accelerate its entry through a U.S. domicile holding company into the U.S. Called Canopy USA LLC. And upon receiving shareholder approval for the creation of a new class of non-voting exchangeable shares in the capital of Canopy Growth, Canopy USA is expected to exercise rights to acquire these, which I believe are single state operators or multi-state operators, but all US-based companies. And so in order to do this, yada yada, you can pause to read all that. But importantly, under the revised structure, the potential strategic benefits of Canopy USA remain intact, including and here it is. You can pause to read. And so I'm not invested in Canopy. This is not advice or anything, just sharing the news as it comes. But with that, Noah Hamman was sharing his thoughts on this whole thing. And while I don't feel I can speak on it, I just figured I would share it because reading through it, it is interesting as someone who is a CEO of an investment firm with advisor shares. They essentially run ETFs. And so he certainly knows a lot more about what can happen behind the scenes and what could be motivating this sort of news than I do. So just figured I would share it. And there's a little bit more down here if you wanted to pause to read. He has discussions with some other investors that are more active in the Twitter cannabis space. If you wanted to grab the full link and go through it all, I just figured I would add it for context just in case you found any of it interesting. And so with that, on to Cresco Labs as they report their first quarter 2023 results. Company remains the number one seller of branded cannabis products. And so for what it's worth, I am a shareholder in Cresco Labs. It's in fact my largest position, and I'm holding very heavy bags, but I am confident that they will get the deal done with Columbia Care and merge to become a larger tier 1 entity that will compete with the other MSOs in time. Hence why I still hold them, and because if I sell for a loss, I'm just going to lose the money. I might as well hold on to the shares. And so all that said, it's not that I'm happy or unhappy. It's just I don't think fundamentals or technicals matter at all at this point, and no one's looking at the future potential until we get that legislation in Congress. That's all that matters at this point. And again, I still think it's a matter of when, not if. But all that being said, not going to spend too much time on this. We'll share you the highlights with you, and then once we get a review from Can Investments, I will put his further Q1 breakdown with the financials in the comments so that you can pull that up. But first quarter 2023 financial highlights, you can pause to read. Management commentary and balance sheet liquidity and other information you can pause to read down here, and then corporate social responsibility, capital markets, and M&A. And so of course the company has no update on the timing for execution of agreements relating to the outstanding divestiture transactions, but they have until June 30th to get this done. And I know it's in the best interest of both parties, so I think they are working towards that, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. And so again, I bet on my horses a long time ago, and rather learn these lessons young while I can still make the money back. Very valuable investing lessons, but at the same time, definitely still think Cresco has potential in the long run as a leading wholesaler with some of their brands, but only time will tell. And so Green Thumb to open Rise Bristol, its 80th retail location in the nation on May 24th. So good to see Green Thumb expanding as the company opened its 5th location in Virginia and 80th nationwide. Will open as of today, Wednesday the 24th. Profits from the first day sales will be donated to Virginia Normal, a good cause, especially helping drive cannabis reform in some of these more red states, I'm sure. And so thrilled to open and expand in Virginia, no doubt. Good to expand into these markets that are less competitive earlier on while you can. So you can pause to read that top snippet down here about comments from the CEO and then Virginia Normal. And then there's a bit more down here if you wanted to pause to read. Of course, you can grab the full link below. Then with that, TerraSend completes sale of facility in Canada for Canadian about $20 million, $19.7 million. Further strengthens the balance sheet by paying down debt, reducing interest expense. And company continues to operate Canadian retail business, including its Toronto cookie store. And so just providing an update, which helps make their balance sheet a little bit more attractive in the near term. So pause to read, or you can grab the full link below if you're interested. And so with that, thank you, Kim Rivers, for sharing this, as apparently DAMA Financial did file this amendment or this amended testimony with the Senate Banking Committee. We're all in this together, and while this is nice, it's just like, man, the damage has been done. It sucks. And so as the CEO of DAMA Financial, we took an overly myopic focus drafting our testimony on banking compliance rather than balancing the testimony with why the benefits of the legislation outweigh the desire for future enhancements. This was my oversight. I wish to express our full support for the Safe Banking Act S1323. And so again, nice, but I still think the damage has been done. Again, I still think the momentum from the banks and the lobby and the need for cash and liquidity is going to eventually outweigh in the long run, but until then, the DAMA Financial News and the amended testimony will be in the comments if you wanted to read that below. On to some visuals on some MSOs. Sammy J, thank you for sharing this one. An interesting one and a tough pill to swallow. The Viridan capital chart of the week. Does the lack of trading liquidity inhibit capital raising? It certainly makes it a lot more difficult. And so the graphs bars show the average daily dollar trading volume for 16 of the largest US MSOs and 5 of the largest Canadian LPs from January 1st, 2023 to May 19th, 2023. And the funny thing is the reality is that no doubt these companies are way less financially healthy, especially fundamentally healthy, than these companies are. And many of these companies are a lot closer to reaching cash flow from operations than any of these companies are. Yet, because cannabis is federally legal in Canada, they can list on U.S. exchanges and benefit from institutional capital. And at the exact same time, these American-made businesses that operate in America, that provide jobs to Americans, that supply the American market and make hundreds of millions of dollars a quarter, way more revenue and profit than these Canadian LPs, sadly are still discriminated against because of the failed war on drugs, and they cannot uplist, therefore get the same access to institutional capital. It's a crime, and that is why we have the current situation. Is it a disaster or is it an opportunity? Those words often mean the same thing in certain languages, and depends how you look at it. It could be a disaster for me having invested, a year and a half ago all of my money, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for anyone now seeing these prices and willing to take the risk for the potential reward. Now, again, this is not advice, just pointing out what the data is telling us. If you look at the blue line, this is primary exchange average daily volume in dollars, and then secondary exchange average daily volume. It's just so much easier to trade these than these, but we hold out for the day that these bad boys uplist on the major U.S. exchanges and finally get the respect that they deserve and their time to shine. And so with that, some more state news. Tom Angle, thanks for sharing. Maryland Governor Wes Moore is allowing a bill to prevent police from using the smell of cannabis as justification for searching people or vehicles to become law without his signatures. Great job, Governor of Maryland. One way we can help normalize and stop the discrimination that only people who use this plant face. And so more on the full article if you wanted to grab the link below, but figured I would just share some of what is included. And then we got this one, marijuana moment sharing from Michigan. As Michigan officials move to end pre-employment cannabis testing for government workers, it's going to save a lot of resources and money that's just been wasted for really no apparent reason. Because if you're going to test for cannabis, you really might as well test for alcohol, because alcohol is a much more damaging substance than cannabis. But I digress. In light of legalization, commissioners have requested circulation for public comment of potential regulation amendments. So it doesn't seem like it's happening anytime soon, but it's a good step in the right direction. And again, it would save them a lot of money and resources, because why are you still testing anyways? And so just a good laugh from Bronx Times. New York's cannabis market has made more than $16.5 million. Ha! But is it making good on its promise? Hell no. So it's an older one from May 17th, 2023. Just thought I would share it though because it's funny. Just some of the highlights of the failure that they've seen thus far. And what's funny is that they're paying for ads on Twitter to show that like our industry is going to reach 6.3 billion by this year. It's like, no, you've really screwed it up, and you've got a lot of work to do to correct the unfortunate direction you're heading in. And so with that, just to compare, while California is almost as bad policy-wise as New York, at least California has hundreds of legal dispensaries where they can sell that legal product and collect the tax revenue from. Obviously, they could have thousands, and it would probably be better distributed statistically, serving the population better and more effectively eliminating the black market. But that's what allows them to bring in $200 million in the first quarter of 2023 versus New York that brought in $16.5 million because they have like 7 legal stores that have opened up after 2 years, but they've got 1,500 illegal ones that operate because the slap on the wrist is less than the hoops that the legal operators have to go through. So it's just fascinating, but of course, legal outlets matter. That way you can fend off the black market somewhat and actually bring in tax revenue. And so as of May 16th, you can see the total numbers for the month broken down. But interestingly enough, that's down from the fourth quarter of 2022 when the state collected $248.5 million in cannabis taxes. Seems like more people are turning to the cheaper and convenient black market because municipalities are not opening up new legal dispensaries in high populated areas quickly enough. more incompetent politics getting in the way. And so one thing celebrating that the state says legal cannabis sales have generated nearly $5 billion in tax revenue since January 2018. But, is that money being redistributed properly and effectively? That's a whole nother question to ask. But all this tells us is that when you do not open up dispensaries quickly enough to properly supply the demand for your population, and again, California is 40 million people, so they need thousands of dispensaries per capita to properly supply the demand, you're going to lose that tax money to a cheaper alternative gray market, sadly. And so our last state, Colorado, this one from Normal as of May 18th, but state mandated review on high THC products yields inconclusive results. Love the data, counterintuitive, but it is what it is, as researchers affiliated with the Colorado School of Public Health failed to reach any definitive conclusions regarding the potential health risks associated with the use of high THC products following the completion of a 2-year review of available data. They looked at over 450 relevant studies and identified only limited evidence supporting that THC products or high THC products are associated with an elevated risk of substance abuse or dependence. And similarly, they found little data to substantiate fears that young people are more susceptible to adverse physical or mental health outcomes after using concentrated THC products. And so little data to back up the fear-mongering that propagandists like to deliver and spout. You can pause here if you wanted to read more, but now for a little tour around the world. This one out of Australia, news.com.au. Green's study finds, get out of my way. Okay. Yeah. Green's study finds overwhelming support for legalization of cannabis in Australia. And so get this, they asked nearly 9,000 Aussies who took part in this extensive online survey. And I do remember when I went to Australia, it might've been 2017 or 2018. I visited Nimbin, the cannabis capital of the country, and it was a great time. But get this, a massive 98%. So only 2 voted against. 98% of respondents supported the idea of legalization. Can any other issue be this popular for politicians to, catch on and realize that this is a thing that they should run with? And 50% of those surveyed identified themselves as recreational cannabis users. So obviously a lot more people know about the magic of cannabis than are willing to admit. So you can pause to read more or you can grab the full link, but just wanted to share that as 98%. You rarely see that. Hopefully Aussies can get this done. And again, more politicians realize that this is a popular issue. Well, thank you, Deepak Anand, for sharing this one about Luxembourg, small EU country that talks a big game about legalizing, but they at least allow medicinal for their populace. Good news, cannabis prescriptions double in Luxembourg. It means there's more demand. They want more cannabis. They have to increase the supply, but sadly, legalization plans continue to stall. And so this is article will be in the description if you wanted to read through that a little bit more on Luxembourg. Well, we got this one out of Spain. The Minister of Health assured that Spain is going toward a prompt regulation of medicinal cannabis. And so this is a bit older as of May 12th, 2023. You can pause to read, but the Minister of Health of Spain has apparently announced that he will present before the end of May a report that will allow the regulation of the use of medicinal cannabis in the national health system. And so today it's May 24th. He's got until now to the end of the month to deliver this report and keep his word, which I hope to update you on. It would be great if Spain, like many of the other EU countries, continues this momentum and gets in line to help normalize medicinal cannabis for its populace. And so more down here if you wanted to pause to read, of course, otherwise you can grab the full link. And then we've got this one from Cannatech today. I'm not going to touch on it too much, but essentially it's a top 20 most innovative cannabis products of 2023. And so it's probably an ad as well, but if you're a gadget lover or you like toys, a lot of interesting takes in here on vaporizers and different flower strains as well. And so of course, link in the description. And then last bit, we've got Curaleaf's executive chairman Boris Jordan joining Mayor Toby on Wednesday, May 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter Spaces. That is today, Wednesday, May 24th at 4 p.m. So set your reminders. Hopefully I can get this video edited and out by 1 or 2 so that anyone tuning in can also catch this at 4. But what other billionaires do you know take time out of their busy schedules to try and educate us small retail investors? And while it does benefit him because obviously we care about the industry that he has spearheaded, we appreciate when he does this. And while he's made claims in the past that haven't panned out, like safe making it in the NDAA, he does usually drop a lot of knowledge and truth bombs that we wouldn't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate him giving it to us straight. And if you listen with open ears as an investor, whether you're young or old, he drops a lot of wisdom that's valuable to remember for the rest of your investing career if you can. And so thank you, Boris, for not forgetting about us, and I will be tuning in later. Hopefully you will too. But that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody.